Video games are accompanied with a variety of factors ranging from the gameplay to the story and most importantly its soundtrack. The soundtrack of a game makes or breaks its success, and as with voice acting in games, bad soundtracks either lead to awful sales or they get memed into oblivion. Detroit Become Human is a story-based game in which your choices matter. The game follows Connor, android detective hunting deviants, Kara, a cleaning android turned deviant turned mother, and Marcus, the leader of the deviants. The gameplay of Detroit is basic and it relies heavily on its story and the outcomes. However, its soundtrack, good lord. The soundtrack in Detroit is composed by Nima Fakahara, Philip Shepard, and John Pacino, who all wear on their tracks for their character. Connor's theme has many more synths and a much more robotic feel to it, tying in his cold approach to his missions. This is much more apparent in his earlier gameplay, with it being noticeable during the first mission. The slow build-up during the hostage situation allows for the audience to be immersed, while the fast-paced, loud switch during the chase for a deviant makes for some of the most dramatic and intense scenes in the game. Connor's gameplay also has a focus on mystery and figuring out the cases of the deviants, which his theme conveys through its deep and electronic focus of instruments. Kara's theme, on the other hand, is much more somber, which alludes to her kind and caring nature. The violin is used as well as a soft piano melody in many of her tracks, and this combined with a much less action-oriented gameplay allows for the players to have a deeper connection with Kara. Use of softer wooden instruments such as the violin also links to her motherly themes, with her main goal in the game being to protect Alice and provide her safety. Kara's theme displays her desperation and her defenselessness in the story, as despite her innocence, Kara's theme also displays her fierceness and her power to fight for freedom. Marcus's theme is much more inspirational, often having more emotional pianos, which fits with Marcus's theme of both hope and death. Marcus's soundtrack fits with his hope and desire for a better future for both the androids and the humans, and whereas his themes are often the shortest, they convey the theme of humanity through its somber nature. Marcus actively works towards his goal throughout the game, with him building on his goal within each act, and his soundtrack shows that by introducing the theme with the piano, and then adding more instruments as his army of androids grows. Overall, the Detroit Become Human soundtrack is, to me, one of the most recent examples of a group of composers who know what a good soundtrack is. The amount of care and details that went into the creation of the soundtrack goes far beyond what other games have created, and the unique takes on each of the characters makes for a very immersive and very talented set of individuals from both a creative and technical standpoint. An example of a great game soundtrack can be seen in the Hotline Miami series. Hotline Miami is a top-down shooter focusing on its raw brutality and high-octane gameplay. Enemies spot you within a second and react instantly, requiring full attention and the best of your instincts. So, what can top off what is already grounds for a great game? An equally as great soundtrack. Hotline Miami focuses on its neon-soaked 80s theme, and so does the soundtrack, pairing it intensely with gameplay, and equally as intense soundtrack. Hotline Miami has a minimalist plot, however it's easily carried by its music and overdramatic portrayal of violence. In Hotline Miami 2 Wrong Number, the soundtrack follows the same theme, however pushes it to the max, with the music being much more aggressive during missions in which there are tons of enemies, and then being much more relaxed and tranquil on stealthy missions. The soundtrack is accompanied by Carpenter Brute and Moon, who both work together to emphasize its ultra-violence and high-octane gameplay. Altogether, the soundtrack is fun and pairs well with the gameplay, and each song screams cliché 80s. This allows for an enjoyable experience throughout all segments of the game. Undertale. The game that made many furries into the degeneracy that they are. If you were around the internet around 2015-2016, there's no doubt you've encountered some meme music using music from this game. However, despite its questionable past, Undertale has a very good soundtrack, with all the songs being composed and produced by Toby Fox. There's a total of 101 songs in the Undertale soundtrack, in the style of Mother, Toho, and Tonestruck. The soundtrack is never sticking to one theme, going from calm and somber to quirky and eccentric. Toby Fox takes every opportunity to change the songs and constantly makes sure that the music fits the scene that the character is placed in. The songs featured in Undertale even at times feature leitmotifs from various characters throughout various tracks. An example of this can be seen in the song Dummy, which is then heard again in the song Spider Dance. This happens with many of the songs in the game, however it's most notably featured in the game's finale song, Hopes and Dreams. In this song, the major character themes from Papyrus, Asgore and Toriel are brought back during the fight with Azrael. This not only makes for a very fitting soundtrack, but also shows the musical ability of Toby Fox, as it allows the audience to immerse themselves into the battle, while also reliving the moments and memories they've been a part of through the journey. And that was only the pacifist run. Going on to the genocide run, the soundtrack does a complete 180, as there's often little to no soundtrack in the run. On the initial playthrough, each place the character entered would be accompanied by its theme. For example, in Snowdon, the song Snowdon Town plays, and in Waterfall, well, the song Waterfall plays. However, in the genocide run, when the player has killed all the necessary enemies, the game removes the soundtrack completely with this deep and menacing track. Now, it must be noted that when sped up by a speed of 1200, the song becomes Flowey's theme. Furthermore, Undyne's theme, Spear of Justice, is now replaced with a much more powerful battle against a true hero. This song plays as we watch Undyne, who chooses to fight for not only the monsters of the underground, but for humanity despite her grievances. This change of heart is portrayed through the piano and then the passion with the drums and introduction to the rest of the song. Finally, the true demon and the main reason the soundtrack is talked about: Megalovania. Santa's theme, Megalovania, is an iconic song within Undertale, being the primary source of memes post 2016 to today. It is a fast-paced and chaotic song which fits well with the fight against Sans, someone who both we the player and Frisk / Kara / whatever you want to call her has associated with laziness and idiocy. From being used in an extensive amount of internet memes to being performed in front of Pope Francis. If you haven't heard of the many remixes of Megalovania or weren't present during the peak of Undertale, then you really missed out. The music of Undertale has won many awards, and as it should, it's key to the success of the game. The soundtrack not only details the genius of Toby Fox, but also shows the passion that went into the creation of the game, with each soundtrack showing the appreciation of the character and fitting the theme of what's happening. The soundtrack allows the player to immerse themselves and associates the character with their respective theme. Whereas the success of video games aren't determined by its soundtrack, the composition of a soundtrack goes a long way in keeping the audience immersed for long periods of time, while also allowing the player to connect themselves with the gameplay. It can be the difference between picking a game up for 5 minutes or picking it up for 5 hours, and whether you're blasting your way from room to room in Hotline Miami, or taking care of your android daughter in Detroit Become Human, the soundtrack that accompanies you on the journey can alter your playthrough and how you choose to approach certain situations. And with that, my name's Monkey, and I'll see you in the next video.